All right, you feather merchants, this is another Pelican Bay State Prison story. Um, this happened, I think, around early 2000. And I was on the security squad when this happened. My partner and I, we were finding a lot of weapons in the cells, both on A yard and B yard. And the sergeant we had at the time, he called me in his office. He asked me, he said, you guys are finding a lot of weapons. He said, who's your informant? And I said, we don't have one. And he said, why are you finding all these weapons? So I told him the way we did it. And my partner and I, we would go into a building and just randomly pick out a section. And of course, we'd wait till the yard went out. And invariably, when you'd walk into one of those sections, anyone holding a weapon or drugs, but especially a weapon, they would come to the door right away as soon as they heard the section door open. And they would come to their door and look out to see who was there. And when they would see us, they would generally turn the light off, and that was a signal to that's the cell they hit. And so what my partner and I we would do, we wouldn't even make eye contact with them. I would go in one direction, he would go in the other direction, and we'd go to the end of the tier and then meet at the cell this guy was at. And so that's how we were finding a lot of weapons. Anyway, the sergeant, so I told the sergeant, I said, we'll find one right now for you. And I told him, I said, pick a yard. And he picked A yard. I kind of wished he would have picked B yard at the time, because that's where most of the gangsters were at. A yard had a lot of alcoholics, a lot of Pruno makers. But anyway, he picked A yard, and I said, pick the building. He picked the building, and I said, you picked a section. And he picked a section. And so we got the plan down, and we responded to A yard, went to that building, explained to the control booth officer what we were going to do, and had him, we wanted him to open the door as soon as we signaled to him. And sure enough, we walked into the section. As soon as we walked in there, some guy on the top tier ran to the front of his door and turned the light off. And so that was our target. So we went up the stairs. We went one way, sergeant, a couple guys went the other way. And right away, I had the control booth officer open the door. Well, the guy's sitting on the toilet. Of course he's sitting on the toilet. He's trying to get the weapon back up in his rectum. And so anyway, he said, hey, I'm trying to go to the bathroom. I need some privacy. I said, well, we'll stay here. We'll wait for you, you know. And so anyway, as we're waiting, he's having trouble. He's having trouble getting it back up there. And we already shut his water off, so he can't flush it. So anyway, he kept playing around with it like this, and finally he gave up and pulled up his shorts, and we cuffed him up, had him step out onto the tier, and he was in his underwear, so all I did was pull his underwear down, and there's a knife sticking out of his butt. And I told the sergeant, well, there's your weapon. And it was funny because when he was interviewed later by the sergeant, he said, he said, that old guy, he says, I wanted to stab him up. And he said he was having trouble getting the knife back up there. And he said he saw me standing there, just kept looking at him. And he was going to pull it out and stab me. I knew he was going to do it. And so it was no big thing. Anyway, one of the other officers on the security squad at that time, he was big. and he happened to move over and stand next to me in front of the cell, just as this guy was going to pull the weapon out and stab me. And when he did, the cell darkened because Tony was so big. And as soon as the convict looked at him, he thought, that's going to be real painful. He said, so. He said, I put the weapon back up there. I tried to get it back up there. I couldn't do it. So I just decided to come out. But he said, you tell that old fucker, he said, that he's lucky. And anyway, that was a pretty good find. And we did that time and time and time again. It was unbelievable. It was, and they did it constantly. Anyway, this is a real short one, and I just wanted to share that with you and sign off. Okay.